Russell and Chamberlain, they play each other 10, 12 times a year, maybe 15. They were always there, and it was just electric.
That '77 championship series between Portland and Philadelphia was a perfect contrast. The individualism, the showmanship of the 76ers, and the quiet, reserved teamwork of the Portland Trailblazers.
I didn't fear anybody, but I feared Larry because I knew his will to win was just as high as mine.
Each and every game that we played against Detroit, we considered a war.
We had a lot of fights with them. We always won them.
Throughout NBA history, the league's rivalries have produced its most compelling dramas. And over the next hour, we'll relive some of the classic battles between basketball's arch rivals. We'll look back at the memorable matchups, not only between teams like the Bulls and Pistons, but also between players, including Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. But we begin with the league's first great individual rivalry. It had everything. It was the irresistible force against the immovable object. It was overpowering offense against dominating defense. Quite simply, it was Wilt Chamberlain against Bill Russell.
The rivalry between Chamberlain and Russell was something that I don't think any sport, any team sport, has ever had.
We'll go over the history of the NBA, the first 50 years. That's probably as dramatic a matchup as you've ever seen any time.
It was a classic confrontation. The greatest offensive player ever and the greatest defensive player.
In 1956, 6'9" Bill Russell took the court for the Boston Celtics, and basketball would never be the same.
I went around my man, going for a layup, and he blocked a couple of shots on me. And then the next time I got around him, I missed a layup looking for him.
He would shut down the basket, completely shut it down. Every shot went up, he took it away.
Russell blocked shots without blocking them because people wouldn't take shots because they were afraid to take them. He changed the whole game.
When Wilt Chamberlain joined the Philadelphia Warriors in 1959, he didn't seem too concerned with Russell.
I think it would be a period of orientation for me, like it is for every newcomer in the NBA, but I think in the long run I'll be able to handle myself man-to-man with almost anyone in the league.
The 7'1" Chamberlain statement would prove to be an understatement.
His size and his strength and his athletic ability, he dominated the sport. You've never seen anything like it before or since.
He averaged 50 points a game one season. That's his average, 50, every game.
Wilt and Russell were each brilliant in their own way. They gave a face to a sport struggling for an identity.
They were the league. People paid to see Russell and Chamberlain because that was the great duel.
It was like two titans of the game meeting, and you'd have headlines, Russell versus Chamberlain, and the papers and the fans and everyone played this up.
They were household names. They were on the cover of magazines.
It seemed to me, every Sunday, we'd be on national TV, and I'm playing against Wilt. And at that time, there were 3 channels. So the percentage of the population that would see it was much greater than like now when you got 500 channels.
But as they began to wage their battles on the court, they became friends when they stepped off it.
He'd come to my house at Thanksgiving, and he'd bring Sam Jones and Casey Jones, and they'd have dinner. My mother would cook them dinner, and then Bill would go up to my bed and fall asleep. When he'd come back down, my mother would say, "Now, William, you take it easy on my son tonight." They'd go out there and they'd beat us instead. And then, my mother would say, "We don't invite him to dinner no more." No more. But the same thing we used to go to Boston. We were very, 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 very close.
He kept getting these good salaries. And so, wait a minute, if the money's out there for him, it's got to be out there for me too.
He asked for $1 more than me. He told the Celtics that whatever Wilt signs for, I want $1 more.
Came over the radio or something that Wilt had just signed a contract for $100,000. When we heard this, I was talking to Red Auerbach, and we were talking about my contract for the next year. That does it. I know what I want for next year. He says, "What?" I says, "I want $100,000 and $1."
And then Boston paper had the very next day almost, Russ signs for 101. And so I gave Russ a call, 101. I mean, you're so far behind here. I said, I signed for 300. And he was really angry.
But ultimately, what made the matchup of Wilt and Russell so compelling was its complexity. Chamberlain was a scoring and rebounding machine, while Russell was not only the anchor of the Celtic defense, but the hub of their famed fast break.
What I had to do is discipline myself to never get into a numbers game with him. In other words, if he gets 40, I gotta get 40. If he gets 30 rebounds, I gotta get 30 rebounds. Because then I'll be playing his game and not my game. And my game consists of doing things that made my teammates effective.
It was not altogether the matchup that you've been hearing about over the years. Even though it was a great duel, they used their team. Nobody wanted to face me singly. Nobody. Bill Russell or 5 Bill Russells.
Russell was part of the team, inbred into the team, woven into the team more than anybody else that I've ever known, ever in any sport whatsoever. Chamberlain, he didn't understand the subtleties of the game in the way that Russell did, but he was such an overpowering physical figure that he could rule the game.
In each of Wilt Chamberlain's first 5 years in the league, Bill Russell's Celtics won the championship. And in 3 of those seasons, they eliminated Wilt's Warriors from the playoffs. But Russell's titles only added to the debate about which player was better.
Boston mythology holds that Russell could control Wilt. He would hold Wilt in check for 3 periods, and then with the game safely stowed away, Russell could allow Wilt to go dunk up a storm in the 4th quarter, grab some rebounds, come out with a statistical edge, and go away thinking he had outplayed Russell while Russell had won the game. The basic Chamberlain viewpoint was that Russell always had the better team, always had the better teammates, and that had Wilt been given Russell's teammates, Wilt would have won the titles that Russell won.
The 7th game of the 1965 Eastern Division Finals between the Celtics and Wilt's new team, the Philadelphia 76ers, seemed to confirm the Chamberlain perspective.
I scored the last 10 points. We were behind. I scored 10 points, and we had a few seconds to go, and we were about ready to dethrone them.
The Celtics are leading 110 to 109. There are 5 seconds left.
And we got a 1-point lead, and we eyeball out of bounds. I did not trust anybody else to take it out but me. I wanted to take it out because I'd make sure that I could make a good pass.
Now Russell he loses the ball off the support. Russell lost the ball off the support, and the ball goes to Philadelphia.
We go, and all I could say was, guys, we got to do something.
Greer's putting the ball on a play. He gets it out deep, and Havlicek steals it over to Sam Jones. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over. It's all over.
Havlicek steals the ball. I said, Havlicek, how lucky can you be?
Bill Russell wants to grab Havlicek. He hugs him. He squeezes John Havlicek.
Wilt was a Paul Bunyan figure, mythic in what he could personally do, but then every year he would get chopped down by Russell. And when that would happen, it would cause people to think that maybe Wilt was suspect.
As this competition grew, they grew apart. They became kind of bitter enemies. The sports writers in the game itself pitted them against each other for so long that they started taking it personally, and it just destroyed a friendship.
In 1966, Chamberlain again lost to Russell in the playoffs. But in 1967, Wilt's Sixers recorded the greatest regular season of their time. For Wilt, however, there was only one goal.
When we played Boston, he would get irritated. And you know that he wanted to beat Russell. It wasn't about beating the Celtics. He wanted to beat Russell. And until that happened, you know, he wasn't a complete player.
Wilt would finally get his revenge as the Sixers steamrolled the Celtics in the playoffs on their way to the title.
Well, the Celtics on the brink of defeat for the first time since 1956. Gamely trying, but they did not have it here in the second half.
No one could say that, hey, someone with a lucky shot, whatever. I mean, we were the best team out there. We were better than anybody at any year.
Wilt now seemed on the verge of creating a dynasty of his own, as the Sixers led Russell's Celtics 3-1 in the 1968 playoffs.
I can remember standing up before that 5th game and looking down at the Celtics practicing, and Auerbach talked about Russell in the past tense, how great he was. I don't want you to forget how good he was, Frank. It was over as far as they were concerned. And they went out and they won that game. They went back to Boston, and they won there, and Russell came back, and in the final game, the 7th game, Wilt didn't take a shot in like the last half of the game. It just began to crumble.
Russell's title in 1968 was like a miracle, but in 1969, he seemed to have run out of them. As Russell's aging and injured Celtics would face Wilt's new team, the powerful Lakers, in the finals.
With guys like Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, I feel very, very happy that I've been traded to a team that I believe may stand a chance to go down the record as one of the best teams in basketball ever.
Even as the Celtics pushed the Lakers to a 7th game, no one believed that Russell could beat Wilt this time. No one except Russell.
I can't help but wonder, how do you feel about going into another 7th game, this time on somebody else's floor?
We've done it before. I told my guys, the Lakers cannot beat us. It's not something that can happen. They can't beat us.
And they didn't. In what was to be Russell's final game, he would score only 2 points, but would manage to do just enough to frustrate Wilt and add a strange yet fitting climax to the game's most fascinating duel.
No way should we have lost to Boston. Just no way. I mean, I still don't know how we lost to Boston. It's a mystery to me.
And the Celtics, they have done it again. A spectacular finish.
Chris, I'm here with Bill Russell. Bill, this must have been a great win for you.
Jack. One more time. One more time.
I know it's hard to say what's in your mind right now, Bill.
I decided early in my career, the only really important thing was to try to win every game. Because when you get through, they can't say, well, he was the best shooter, he's the best this, or he's the best that, or he was this guy's better this, this guy's better that. The only thing that really mattered to me was who won.
I can look back on my career and there was 5 7th games. 5 times I lost with a combination of 9 points. Think about that. 7-game series, 9 points going the other way, I would have had 5 more world championship rings. But the only thing that I can tell you is that if Bill Russell walked down the street during those days and some average person saw him, you know what they would say? Hey, Wilt. And wherever he went, they all called him Wilt. The name, they all knew. Now, how do you think you would have felt if you were like the hub of 10 world championships and people were still calling you by somebody else's name?
In the early 1970s, the National Basketball Association was competing with the rival American Basketball Association. The ABA offered a flamboyant form of the game, and it had the sport's most entertaining star, Julius Erving.
It wasn't Julius Erving, it was Dr. J, which meant when he got on the floor, on the court, he operated on guys.
Without question, without any doubt, the absolute greatest forward that has ever put on a pair of basketball shoes.
He wasn't just its biggest star, he was the league.
Then in 1976, in part to acquire the doctor, the ABA was absorbed by the NBA. When the leagues merged, Erving was acquired by the Philadelphia 76ers. Erving joined a 76er team that was as wild as he was.
They are the Philadelphia 76ers, the greatest collection of individual talent ever assembled on one basketball team.
The 76ers were really the team, I think, that really brought that other style, brought that other energy into the NBA. Because not only did they get Dr. J, they also had George McGinnis, who was also a very free-flowing kind of player. They had Darryl Dawkins. So the 76ers were really like this traveling circus.
I had the rub roaster, the bun toaster, the turbo sexophonic delight dunk, which you go up, swivel your hips a little bit for the girls.
People used to get mad, and this is no lie. People used to get mad when they missed our layup line. Before the game, this is warm-up, before the games. We were doing some crazy things.
As the Sixers' popularity began to spread, they acquired a national following.
Every city he went to was a sellout. And when you get to that arena,
fans were rooting for Dr. J, but rooting for their team. And as long as they saw the doctor perform and do something spectacular, they went home happy.
He put a little extra one on that one.
On the other side of the country in the Pacific Northwest, there was a distinctly different team making a mark. The Portland Trail Blazers, a franchise just 7 years old, was finally shedding its expansion skin and coming into its own. And they were doing it thanks to a completely different kind of star.
There have been basketball players more talented than Bill Walton, and there have been basketball players more unselfish than Bill Walton. But there has never been a player so talented and so unselfish.
And the Blazers perfectly mirrored their counter-culture center.
We had an incredibly intelligent team that loved to pass the ball and really had no ego problems on the team in terms of who got the statistics, who got the recognition in the paper.
Portland would manage to upset their way through the Western Conference playoffs, and when they arrived at the NBA Finals, they met their polar opposite, the Philadelphia 76ers.
That 77 championship series between Portland and Philadelphia was a perfect contrast in all the different elements in society and culture that were going on. The individualism, the showmanship of the 76ers, and the quiet, reserved teamwork of the Portland Trail Blazers.
Portland against Philadelphia was more than just a clash of styles. It was a difference of philosophies.
I thought this was a moral war of a team that played the game right against a team that represented every evil that we then knew possible in sport. Portland, with the Sir Galahads, Walton, all these guys cutting off Walton. I thought it was essential that Portland win to save Western civilization.
But the Blazers were again huge underdogs, and right from the opening tip in Game 1, it seemed like Philly's freewheeling style would prevail.
Tip goes to McGinnis, quickly to the doctor. Well, that's one way to start a ball game.
Bill Walton, those guys, I know they was looking at him like, could you believe this?
In the first 2 games, the 76ers would overwhelm the Blazers.
There's Davis. Six came from behind the line. Collins got it. Collins off now. Dawkins.
The whole Philadelphia 76ers, the whole aura surrounding them was one of intimidation. Intimidation in terms of they had so many athletic players who could do so many things.
Although the 76ers won both games, something significant occurred at the end of Game 2.
Inside. Dawkins just yanks Gross down to the ground and jumps back up. Richie Powers is pushing Ramsey away. And now, Harold Dawkins and Maurice Lucas. Somebody do something.
Lucas stood up to Dawkins. Dawkins didn't want any part of Maurice.
Lucas comes to the aid of Bobby Gross and is our strong person, our intimidator, and absolutely did not back down from a guy who was physically bigger than Dawkins.
In one bold move, Maurice Lucas, although he didn't change the score, changed the complexion of the series.
Instead of being intimidated now, we were angry and we were ready to fight back.
But the fight not only boosted Portland's spirits, it demoralized the 76ers.
Darryl was very upset. He felt like that we had allowed Maurice Lucas to hit him in the back of the head. We had guys upset over their playing time. So things weren't good in our locker room even though we were winning.
The series shifted to Portland, and soon too would the momentum, as the Blazers began to play their game.
Puts it to Walton. What a pass by Borzik.
Blocked. Walton. Picked up by Lucas. Down to Johnny Davis. Drives the middle. Look at him go.
I thought that they dissected us pretty good. They broke us down. They found out where our weak links was, and they continued to attack us.
9:30 to go. Walton on the lob. Oh, he got it in.
And Walton would make sure the Blazers would even the series up at 2.
What a sequence for the Blazers! Walton again, twice at the basket. I can't believe that first play.
The performance of the Trailblazers was probably the best team basketball that I had ever been around.
Back in Philly, the Blazers kept their 5-man onslaught going.
Top of the screen, and Walton rolled off the pitch beautifully.
And the 76ers had no answers.
We were not a close-knit team. It's not that we didn't like each other or there was great, dislike or anything. We just didn't have the wherewithal to pull it all together.
But back in Game 6, with his team facing elimination, Dr. J would heroically try to lift his team as only he could.
Gross in a foot race, and here he comes. Doctor looks for daylight with Nina. He took that to the hoop.
Portland would effectively answer in the only way they knew how.
The ultimate skill, the greatest skill, is to make the other guys the star. And I think that's what everybody on that great Blazer team did, was try to figure out how they could help their teammates.
Portland's group effort would give them a late lead, but Philadelphia had the ball and one last chance to come together.
Went into the huddle. Talking about who was going to take the last shot. We're down 2 points. We had 3 guys on the team who were looking for the last shot, and I wasn't one of them.
Here we go, the inbound of McGinnis. Drive, stop, pump, shoot, short, no good, and the game is over! The Portland Trailblazers have won the World Championship.
The rivalry between Philadelphia and Portland would last only 1 year, but their clash so perfectly epitomized the battle of style versus substance that it remains one of the most vivid in sports history.
I've never coached a better player, I've never coached a better competitor, and I've never coached a better person than Bill Walton.
Everything that I always wanted in myself, to believe in myself, here's the guy, I'm looking right at him. And I always get excited about talking about Larry Bird. Larry Bird said that there will be another Larry Bird one day. And Larry, there will never, ever, ever be another Larry Bird.
The origin of the storied NBA rivalry of the Boston Celtics' Larry Bird and the Los Angeles Lakers' Magic Johnson can be traced to the 1979 NCAA title game, where Magic's Michigan State team defeated Bird's Indiana State team in one of college basketball's most celebrated finals. The meeting would eventually become more significant than the outcome, as 7 months later, Magic and Bird would join the NBA together and begin to energize a league that was waning in popularity.
Comes Magic. A beautiful pass by the rookie.
Magic Johnson, a 6'9" lead guard. I've never heard of things like this.
Magic is straight down the middle. Still going, still going. Oh! Highlight film!
Larry Bird probably should have been a power forward. He was like the lead guard.
Advantage, Bird on the drive. Look at that pass. Oh, what a show!
Great play. Oh, show! These guys changed the game.
In his very first season, the 20-year-old Magic would lead the Lakers to a title.
And the most valuable player is Magic Johnson. He starts at center, plays forward,
and Bird would respond the next year as he brought championship glory back to Boston Garden. It all seemed like fate. Joining Wilt and Russell's former teams, Magic and Bird gave the NBA a new marquee rival.
That one of them was the urban black kid from Michigan, and the other one was the manure-kicking country boy from Indiana, and one of them with the Lakers, and one of them with the Celtics. I mean, that was perfect. That's central casting.
Bird and Magic were bringing new fans into the league, and they were attracting them with their own distinctive style. Bird embodied the essence of the blue-collar player.
Trying to get a loose.
The fans could sense his leadership, his hustle. He'd dive on the floor. He'd do whatever it takes.
While Magic personified showmanship.
Beautiful.
He had a passion, simply a passion, an incredible passion to play basketball. He loved the game. He felt fortunate playing the game. He was playing a game that men were being paid at, and he was treating it like it was a kid's game. He used to wear it out on his sleeve. He let everybody know how happy he was in playing the game.
Despite their outward differences, Bird and Magic were kindred spirits.
They were throwing themselves into the game absolutely, totally, completely, hopelessly. And in that way, I think they kind of brought you along. They were saying, come on the court with me. I'm going to play a game of basketball with you.
They have different personalities and different backgrounds, but their value system when it came to what it took to be part of the team was identical.
But while the public was embracing these two stars, they were warily stalking each other from 3,000 miles away.
I kept track of every game he played in. I really didn't care what anyone else did. I always checked to see what Magic was doing. I was always trying to keep up with the things that he done.
I wanted to make sure he wasn't getting too far out in front of me. You know, I had to keep him in sight every day, every score, you know, what he scored, how many rebounds, how many assists. Your person you measured yourself against was Larry Bird, for me.
Finally, in 1984, Magic and Bird would play for the title, and the entire sporting world was watching.
Hey, they won the East, we won the West. So it's like everybody just get ready, sit back, and let's enjoy it.
Magic and the Lakers would capture 2 of the first 3 games.
They are running the Celtics off the Boston Garden court.
And it looked as if they would run away with the series.
This has to be one of the most decisive routes in championship game history.
But the usually quiet Bird would issue a bold response.
You know, we got some great players on this team, but we don't have the players with the heart sometimes that we need. And today when you see Magic slapping high fives and guys going behind their back and shooting layups on us all day long, it seems that somebody would try to put a stop to it. And until we get our hearts where they belong, we're in trouble.
In lines the next day was Celtics play like sissies, because like what Larry said. And it was like the most incredible thing, because we saw that article, and it was like we couldn't wait to get back.
Here's Kareem, outlet to Worthy, Rambit. And you knew this was going to happen. You could see it coming.
I was the leader of the Boston Celtics, and I knew that. My teammates knew that. So they was looking for direction, and that's what I tried to give them.
Led by Bird, the Celtics would push their way back into the series.
Here's Magic, off the mark. Lakers had several chances, and here's Larry Bird chugging down the court.
And Larry Bird, for his credibility and for his highlight and for him to be who he was, he had to beat Magic Johnson during that particular series.
But while Bird rallied his Celtics, Magic faltered in the series' crucial moments.
Be sure they won't let the time run out this time, as they did in Game 2.
Magic takes the ball, and they throw. Magic throws it away.
Look at this.
3 seconds, intercepted by Perry.
The Lakers trying to cut it to 1. And he loses it.
I pride myself in being one of the best players to ever play in this game in the clutch situation, in the pressure situation, and I didn't come through for my team.
The Celtics would beat the Lakers in 7 games.
The Boston Celtics are the NBA World Champions.
And while Bird basked in triumph, Magic was left to shoulder the blame.
I had never lost in a situation like that. So that's the first time I actually had a chance to cry, you know, after the game, and really say, man, that was my fault. You know, I'm sorry. You know, you turn to the guys.
The 1985 finals would provide Magic with an immediate chance for revenge. And this series, he would be the one to rally his team.
Great assist for Magic Johnson.
We weren't going to let Larry Bird and his crew beat Magic and his crew. It was just that simple.
And as they headed to Boston for Game 6, Magic looked to make his Lakers the first team in finals history to eliminate the Celtics on their home floor.
Coming in the Boston Garden and the old building, seeing Red sitting up there, just knowing that the crowd, you could just feel the crowd. I mean, everybody's sweating already. The game is still half hour away.
This time, however, Magic would triumph at Bird's expense.
This man, Magic Johnson, played this season with a mission for the Lakers, and it's about to pay off.
Magic would not only exercise his own demons, but those of Lakers past.
We wasn't playing just for ourselves. We were playing for all the other Laker teams that never beat the Celtics and all the fans of the Lakers.
What do you think the differences were this time around for this team, Magic? We didn't make the mistakes. They came back, but we held them off every time.
Does America believe in magic? You bet we do.
Bird and Magic had taken a rivalry of the 60s, added the showmanship of the 70s, and created one of the most magnetic duels in sports history.
It was almost surreal because we were in the middle of this great tug of war, and you really didn't have an idea who was going to win.
Okay, can we proclaim Larry Bird the greatest player of all time? Okay, I wrote that story in 85, 86. Then we all watched Magic in 86, 87. Well, should we rewrite that now? Yeah, I think I probably wrote that story too.
Each season, Bird and Magic seemed to push each other to new heights. In 1986, Bird won his third consecutive MVP and the title. In 87, Magic would be named the most valuable player, and he would face Bird in the finals one last time.
When we caught them in '87, we knew they were hurt. We were younger, and we had a little bit more firepower. But they still had Larry Bird.
In some ways, Bird was never more heroic, as he desperately fought to keep his Celtics in the series. In the pivotal fourth game, trailing 2-1, he would give Boston the slimmest of leads with time running out.
Larry Bird with a big three-point bomb.
They up one. Coach Riley called the play for Kareem. And I got it, and Kel McHale basically switched out.
I saw that Magic was going to, take the last shot. I could see it in his eyes. I could see him say, like, this is not happening. And so I got to go.
5 seconds to go. Magic with a hook shot. Scores with 2. And the Celtics trail by 1.
It was almost over. I mean, we had one last shot. We had 1 second on the clock, and I got enough room to get it off, and I thought it was in.
Bird fires it, and the Lakers have won.
In essence, Bird's final miss gave the title to Magic and marked the end to their rivalry, but it seemed to only enhance the respect they had gained for each other.
Magic's just a great basketball player. He's the best I've ever seen, Unbelievable. I don't know what to say.
Everything that I always wanted in myself, to believe in myself. Here's the guy. I'm looking right at him. And I always get excited about talking about Larry Bird.
Between them, Bird and Magic would capture 8 titles, and at least one of them would appear in every final during the 80s. But the decade-long battle that they waged would ultimately unite them.
They played not just to focus the spotlight on them, but to raise the level of the game. I think they both understood that, valued it, and pursued it their entire careers, and they could not have gotten it to the level that each did without the other.
And last but not least, this is mine, and I signed it to you, to the greatest basketball player ever, but more important, a friend forever. And I appreciate that.
The game that the Pistons played was rugged, it was tough, it was gritty, and then here comes Michael. Michael is art.
Here's Jordan down the middle, all the way! An unbelievable goal!
We didn't like seeing this young punk come in with all this great skill. And if you came down the middle, you're just going to get killed.
Michael on the move against Vinnie Johnson to the hoop. He is necktied. Oh. Michael Jordan goes down hard. The
Cartwright, quick move to the hoop. Hey, got fouled. And now Isaiah Thomas and Cartwright are swinging.
The Bulls and Pistons hated each other. They hated each other. And they should have. I mean, they pounded each other.
And Rodman and Jordan going at each other.
Each and every game that we played against Detroit, we considered a war.
We had flexed our muscles. They were flexed. And we wanted to remain kings, and they wanted what we had. So they were the ultimate game.
Between 1987 and 1991, these two teams would play each other 47 times, 4 times in the playoffs. Each game, a battle for both supremacy on the court and a place in NBA history. But ironically, the seeds of this rivalry were sown in Boston.
The Celtics were the old veteran team that nothing bothered them, and that annoyed the Pistons because the Pistons were trying as hard as they could and nothing they did worked.
Oh my! What a mistake by Detroit!
Then they jumped over the Celtics.
Isaiah sideline. It's through!
They became the bad boys, and then along comes this team out of the Midwest in Chicago, and the Pistons treated the Bulls the same way the Celtics had treated them. These young kids don't have what it takes.
We knew they were out there, we knew they were up and coming, but at that point in time, we just dismissed it because we knew they couldn't beat us.
While Detroit may not have considered Chicago a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference, they still had reasons not to like them.
The game that the Pistons played was rugged, it was tough, it was gritty, and then here comes Michael. Michael is art.
Here's Jordan down the middle all the way! An unbelievable ball!
We didn't like seeing this young punk come in with all this great skill. And if you came down the middle, you're just going to get killed.
Michael on the move against Vinnie Johnson in the hoop. He is necktied. Oh. Michael Jordan goes down hard.
For Piston captain and Chicago native Isaiah Thomas, beating Jordan and the Bulls was personal.
Isaiah was a great star in Chicago. He was the athlete Chicagoans were maybe most proud of. Michael walks and just takes Chicago away from him.
You know, you come home and your hometown fans despise you. That must have been tough to take.
It affected me because as a kid, I always wanted to play for the Chicago Bulls. But I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed it because we were always beating those guys.
Detroit realized Chicago had a more athletic team than they did, so they induced the younger, more fragile Bulls into a physical and psychological battle that would shape the rivalry for seasons to come.
Nice play, and Lampier taking a shot at Paxson, who did not like it.
It was almost like they bullied us and pushed us around. We always kind of felt like we had to challenge them and stand up to that, and that wasn't really who we were.
It was fun to get them off their game. That's how we got off. We were a very cerebral team. We loved to play the mental games.
Rodman would punch Pippen in the face or to hit him in the chest. He would so upset him, so infuriate him. Pippen couldn't play in these games.
They're so concerned about showing that they're men and they're physical and they're not going to back down. You know they weren't really thinking about how we're going to execute and beat these guys.
Detroit and Chicago would meet for the first time in the playoffs in 1988. And the Pistons were determined to make sure the Bulls and the league's newly crowned MVP knew who ruled the Eastern Conference.
On the switch, Jordan clobbered, and the Pistons want to make Jordan pay.
Detroit's game may have lacked artistry, but it was effective, and they dismissed the Bulls in 5 games.
And the Pistons have now a return trip ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals.
The 1988 series, however, was merely a prelude of things to come. In 1989, Michael Jordan would lead the league in scoring for the 3rd straight year, and he would lead Chicago on a remarkable run to their first Eastern Conference Finals.
Hey, the Bulls win! They win!
But waiting for Chicago were their old friends, who had a new twist in their plans to stop Jordan and the Bulls.
He's the focal point of everything they do, so let's just break down what they do, and then let's give them different looks. So Chuck says, yeah, let's make a set of rules just for this guy.
The set of rules came to be known as the Jordan Rule, and the Pistons considered them classified information.
Jordan Rule? The Jordan Rules. Is that something you guys made up?
You know what? The Jordan Rules was just a whole lot of help.
Jordan over 4 players, and Sally came away with it.
The rules were more than defensive schemes, however. They were part of a grander psychological plan.
They always played into that. Michael wanted to do it all. Michael tried to score it all and played it against him.
I mean, he was like a warrior that said, all right, they got three people, take the ball.
My ego was involved. I don't want the team to seem like they can dominate them, but dominate us as a team.
When Chicago and Detroit met in the 1989 Eastern Conference Finals, Jordan was determined to prove that the Pistons and their Jordan rules could not stop him. But it was Detroit's team defense and the Piston guards who imposed their will on the series.
Again, it's the dirty work. Detroit wants it more at this point.
Detroit's victory in 6 games would propel them to their first NBA title and rattle the confidence of the Bulls.
I remember in '89 when I was really frustrated about how this team was playing from Jordan rules to try to double and triple team me and make other players hurt them. And we knew what was happening, but yet we still didn't make them pay for that.
But Chicago was hoping that the experience of 1989 could help them the following season as they once again reached the Eastern Conference Finals, this time pushing Detroit to a decisive 7th game.
I thought it was a good opportunity to get over this mountain, this hurdle that seemed to have been in the way for the last 3 years.
Let's go all team for this guy. Let's play hard. Let's go. Leave it all on the floor. Let's go.
But Detroit had different ideas.
I thought it would be a cakewalk of a game. They just weren't strong enough mentally to compete at the level that we were competing at.
Thomas was right. The Bulls weren't ready, and the Pistons blew them out.
Bulls can't buy a basket. The lead is 20.
It's one of those situations where at certain points you think, I don't know if we can beat this team.
Jordan could not beat the Pistons by himself, and Scottie Pippen was a non-factor, falling victim to a migraine headache.
It was just one of those things where you went, they don't have it. There's something here or here that they haven't figured it out yet.
It's over! The Pistons return to the NBA Finals for the 3rd straight time!
When we lost that game, I got on the bus, and I remember my father coming on the bus, and I'm back yelling and screaming, and he's doing all his best to try to calm me down and say, it's only a game, you'll be given another opportunity. And I'm saying, well, we've been given so many opportunities, we're not going to get as many as you may think.
But Jordan and the Bulls would use their Game 7 defeat as motivation for the upcoming season.
In 1990-91, our whole focus was on Detroit. No one else made a difference.
And the team as a whole resolved to change their approach to Detroit in both body and mind.
This was a playground type team that played a very disciplined, organized game that was very, very physical. So the involvement as a coach was, you got to go away from pressure.
Phil very much tried to reinforce with us that if they hit us, you went away from it. There's something else available to you.
Jackson emphasized a team game, and it would pay off during the 1991 regular season, as the Bulls would finally finish with a better record than the Pistons. The ultimate test for the Bulls, however, would come once again in the Eastern Conference Finals.
We felt this is the chance to make them back down or shake our hands. So it was an unbelievable feeling. But then when the games came, it was unbelievable nervousness too.
The Bulls were anxious to prove that they had learned their lessons well and began dismantling Detroit from the outset.
Hart right ahead to Jordan. Michael with the drive in on Vinnie Johnson all the way to the hoop and lays it in. Michael Jordan to Phil Cartwright. There's panic all over the Pistons' faces.
First thought, I thought after the first 2 games, I thought we're in trouble because he's figured out how to play now. Once he started using his teammates and still getting 30, it almost became impossible to beat him.
Jordan was not the only Bull, however, who had figured out how to beat the Pistons, as a more determined and mature Pippen had emerged as well.
Yes! And it counts!
Chicago would no longer be intimidated by Detroit, nor baited into confrontation.
Beautiful backdoor pass for Pippen, and he is walloped. He knew he was going to get hit.
They understood, and no matter what we threw out, when we hit them hard, when we talked garbage to them in the paper or in front of them, none of our antics would finally work.
But we learned that it took a little bit more than just, desire. We had to use our minds. We had to outthink the other team.
And he comes up shooting. It's in. Oh, Johnny Paxson. Time is running out on this Detroit championship era.
It's Chicago in a sweep.
After all the losses and the frustration, sweeping and winning on their home floor was about as good as it got.
Chicago's emphatic victories signaled the end of Detroit's run. But even in defeat, the Bad Boys managed to keep the rivalry alive by refusing to shake Chicago's hands as the game ended.
They left the bench, although there's 7 and 9/10 seconds remaining. The Pistons just left.
We were only doing what had been done to us. When we beat Boston, their starting five just left. They just walked out of the building.
They couldn't stand the fact that they could see us win on their court.
And we're not going out as demoralized. We're going out as we had just finished an accomplishment of a run that was unprecedented in the Piston history. We're very proud of it.
It just gave us more energy. And I think from that time on, I think we won 24 straight against Detroit, and we're not going to let them beat us anymore after that.
The Pistons would never challenge the Bulls again, but Detroit's 4-year battle with Chicago would prove invaluable in molding the Bulls into 6-time NBA champions.
The hurdles were very, very difficult, but I'm very happy that we went through those circumstances because it taught us to understand what winning was all about.
You know what they say, that familiarity breeds contempt? And that certainly was true of the Bulls-Pistons rivalry. That mutual dislike was one of the things that made those playoff series so intriguing. For those who watch Detroit against Chicago, or any of the other great rivalries, what will always stand out is the passion and the emotion they generated. In going head-to-head with everything on the line, the NBA's arch rivals have always brought out the best in each other, and they provided the league's most unforgettable moments. I'm Charlie Steiner.